Build Gateway Now is a coalition of over 40 civic, labor, business, and elected groups who know Gateway is a critical priority for the region and the nation's economy. We'll hear shortly from representatives from a number of coalition organizations who are with us today to help us mark a year and a half since the U.S. Department of Transportation and Federal Railroad Administration missed their own deadline to issue a record of decision on the Hudson River Tunnel environmental impact statement and call on them and the Trump administration to issue that record of decision immediately. I'd like to start by briefly going through the Eas Process Timeline. The Gateway Development Corporation and partners submitted an administrative draft of the final EIS to U.S. DOT and the Federal Railroad Administration on February 22, 2018, on schedule for planned March 30th completion if the U.S. DOT adhered to their own deadline. The work by GDC and its partners was completed in 22 months, more than twice as fast as usual for a project of this size. Usually, this step in the environmental review process only takes a few months. For example, Baltimore and Potomac Tunnel Project in Maryland got their record of decision in 4 months after the final draft was submitted. Other projects have seen similar timelines. This brings us to now. To my right is a visual representation of our Hudson Tunnel EIS count-up clock, which is now live on the buildgateway.org website and accurate as of 11 a.m. this morning. We are counting the time since the U.S. DOT's own deadline, not ours, and Monday will mark a year and a half or 18 months since Secretary Chow missed it. The EIS must be approved by the end of 2019 in order for the project to remain on schedule and cost estimate outlined in the recently submitted updated financial plan from Gateway Development Corporation. The lack of a record of decision is holding up a number of key work elements that could be done right now, even without federal funding. This includes property acquisition, moving an early works program forward, and other important pre-construction work. Throughout this campaign and administration, the President has said time and again that he wanted to streamline the environmental review process to keep major infrastructure projects moving forward. Yet they have callously used it over the past year and a half to effectively strangle the Hudson Tunnel project. So the main reason why we are here today is to say to Secretary Chow and the U.S. DOT, do your job. Issue a record of decision without delay. We are counting the time wasted as you put the national economy and the livelihood of thousands of Americans at serious risk. Thank you very much. So first I would like to put this back on. Yeah, I'm just going to grab out. Good. All right. First, I'd like to welcome Kate Slevin, Senior Vice President of State Programs and Advocacy from Regional Plan Association.
The current Hudson Tunnel is slowly failing before our eyes. Anyone who commutes between New York and New Jersey knows this. As time goes on, delays mount, commutes become more unreliable, and we all suffer. Our economy suffers due to missed meetings and shifts that can't get started on time. Our environment suffers as people look for other, more polluting ways to get around. And people's health suffers from the stress of being packed in overcrowded trains and missing bedtimes and daycare pickups. These are near daily realities for commuters, and the situation is only going to get worse before it gets better. RPA found that if the existing Hudson Tunnel is shut down before a new one is built, nearly 500,000 people will see their commutes grow, many by as much as 30 minutes. It will affect not only commuters in Manhattan, but those across the region as traffic mounts and vehicle crashes grow and our region buckles. A shutdown will cost the national economy $16 billion. We can't let this happen. We need the federal government to approve environmental documents so we can move this project forward. We have to move Gateway forward now. Thank you very much.
All right. At least it didn't move while you were talking. All right. Next we have Michael Yanakis, Vice President Public Affairs for New York Building Congress.
The Gateway program is the most significant infrastructure project in the United States. If the existing tunnels fail, it will severely disrupt the lives of 500,000 commuters, cost our national economy billions of dollars, and cripple the Northeast Corridor, which accounts for 20% of our country's GDP. So this is not only critical for our region's economy, it is critical for America's economy. Conversely, if completed, Gateway would transform the daily commute of countless commuters, provide access to new jobs, industries, and economic opportunities, and take many, many temporary jobs in the building community. Our message is simple. Finalize and publish the record of decision for the EIS immediately. The time for stalling is over. We must build Gateway now.
Thank you, Michael. Next, we have Tracie Schoenberg, Manager of Communications with the Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey.
Good morning. The Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey represents 900 businesses statewide in manufacturing, transportation and logistics, finance, technology, healthcare, real estate development, and more. Commerce and industry realizes how critically important infrastructure is to not only New Jersey's economy, but to the region's economy. With our aging bridges and tunnels, the state's economy and its potential for growth are quite frankly being threatened at this time. More than 200,000 people travel the rails every day via New Jersey Transit or Amtrak. These daily commuters are subjected to a failing 108-year-old bridge that often gets stuck in place. They have to ride through aging and crumbling tunnels, much of which was impacted and damaged nearly 7 years ago by Hurricane Sandy. There is no infrastructure project in this country more important than the Gateway project, period. It is time, it is past time for our leaders in Washington, D.C. to come together with New York and New Jersey to fully fund this project, to get it up and going, and to set a date for completion. It is unacceptable that the Federal Railroad Administration has gone 18 months past their very own self-imposed deadline for the release of the environmental impact statement. This statement is critical to the Gateway project, and it cannot move forward in any meaningful way until the statement is issued. We are on borrowed time, and we cannot and simply should not wait any longer to move forward on Gateway. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracie. Next up, we have Maggie Weinerman, Director of Government Affairs for the Partnership for NYC.
Hi, I'd like to read the following brief statement on behalf of Cathy, Wilde, President and CEO of the Partnership for New York City. We represent New York City's business leadership and largest private sector employers. Gateway is a priority for New York City's business community, as most of our leading companies have employees who work on both sides of the river, making rail access a critical factor in the regional economy. Thank you.
Next, we have Bruce Burgin, Chairman of the Raritan Valley Rail Coalition.
Thank you, Brian. The Raritan Valley Rail Coalition represents more than 23,500 daily riders and 1 million residents who live in the 28 municipalities across 4 counties along the Raritan Valley line of New Jersey Transit. I'm here today to add our voice to the many who realize we cannot afford to continue to gamble our collective future by failing to promptly proceed with the Gateway project. The failure of the FRA to act on the environmental impact statement so as to allow this project to move forward is unconscionable. The long-term health and growth of the municipalities and counties along our railroad line, no less the entire Northeast, is threatened by the condition of the existing Hudson River tunnels and the ongoing failure of the federal government to take positive action on the Gateway project. The daily lives of the residents along the Raritan Valley line of New Jersey Transit, whether they are commuters or not, would be dramatically impacted should one of the existing tunnels need to be shut down. The Raritan Valley Rail Coalition is pleased to join with the other members of Build Gateway Now, the states of New Jersey and New York, and the many public officials to demand immediate action on this critical infrastructure project. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next, we have Laura Colacurcio, Deputy Director for the Association for a Better New York.
Thanks very much to the Build Gateway Now Coalition and Brian Frisch for facilitating this discussion. And thank you to the elected officials of New York and New Jersey who continue to push for this project. Senator Schumer and his fellow senators from New Jersey, Senator Menendez and Senator Booker, as well as the late Senator Lautenberg, along with Governors Cuomo and Murphy. The Association for a Better New York is proud to stand with our coalition partners to urge the Federal Railroad Administration to finalize and publish the Record of Decision for the Environmental Impact Statement for the Hudson Tunnel project. At ABNY, we focus heavily on the capacity, reliability, and resiliency of our transportation networks, from subways to airports to regional rail, and no other project has the impact or scale than that of the Gateway program. All New Yorkers should have real concerns about the potentially devastating effects of the failure of the current infrastructure. The economic activity lost and the spillover congestion created will have a crippling and chilling effect on the productivity of our region. We support the constant growth and renewal of New York City's people and businesses, and delays to this project stymie our efforts and blunt our ability to highlight what is great about New York as a centerpiece for commerce, culture, and community. The competitiveness of New York City and the metropolitan area should not be undercut by federal inaction. We are grateful to our local leadership for continuing to press this administration. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Next, we have Liam Blank, Advocacy and Policy Manager for the Tri-State Transportation Campaign.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning. My name is Liam Blank. I'm the Advocacy and Policy Manager for Tri-State Transportation Campaign, which is a nonprofit that advocates for sustainable mobility in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Right now, the existing North River Tunnel, which has 2 tubes, is the only rail link that connects Penn Station with New Jersey and the rest of the Northeast. Damage caused by Hurricane Sandy exposed the fragility of our region's rail infrastructure and underscored the need for constructing a new tunnel under the Hudson River. The more time that passes without funding from the federal government, the greater the risk for hundreds of thousands of commuters who rely on transit and pass through Penn Station each day. Despite the fact that President Trump is a private developer from New York City, he has shown no interest in supporting critical infrastructure projects like Gateway in Democratic-leaning states like New York and New Jersey. Now, for political retribution, the president is roadblocking the Gateway project, which could cause substantial damage to our region's economy if the existing tunnel has to be shut down due to another Sandy-like event. With the clock ticking, the federal government is long overdue on providing real leadership. The time for bold action is right now. Thank you.
Seems better. Okay. Last but certainly not least, we have Steve Sigmund, Chief of Public Outreach with the Gateway Development Corporation.
Thanks. Thank you, Brian. The sign here, the slowly failing sign, is a metaphor for the slowly failing tunnel that we have here. We have to keep patching it up, just like the tunnel. So as Brian said, I'm Steve Sigmund with the Gateway Development Corporation, which is the partnership between New York, New Jersey, and Amtrak that's responsible for building Gateway. So we're very, very grateful for this coalition and a wide, diverse coalition of stakeholders coming together, not just today, but every day to keep fighting to make sure this the critical program moves forward. When it comes to the EIS, I'll make a football analogy because it's football season. What USDOT keeps doing is moving the goalposts in the middle of the game. They asked us to complete the EIS in a short period of time. We did so in 22 months, as Brian mentioned. They had on their own permitting dashboard March 30th, 2018 as the date for completion for the EIS, and we worked towards that date, and now it's 18 months past that date. They asked us to update the EIS when the Port Authority became the project sponsor for the tunnel, and we did so. The FRA administrator said at the beginning of this year that the EIS would be done in the first or second quarter of 2019. It's now the fourth quarter of 2019. So, look, our job is not to worry about the politics. Our job is to continue to do the work that I just described to make sure that this critical program and that the 108-year-old tunnel is replaced with something that is reliable, with something that is resilient, and something that's safe for 200,000 commuters a day. We are all commuters. We all rely on this tunnel, and we all rely on the economic engine of the nation that is New York and this region. So whatever the politics, we'll keep doing the work. And we're very, very grateful to have partners in Build Gateway Now to do that work with us. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have, unless there are any questions.
Obviously, this is a countdown up clock
Yeah.
be online. Why is it a countdown clock here in Penn Station on one of the many billboards where commuters could see it and possibly jump into the fray and advocate for getting this thing done?
I like that idea. It's certainly something we'll look into. Yeah. Go ahead. Do we have any Spanish speakers here today? No.
I can do something quickly. I can do something very
Lauren,
quickly.
do you want to hop in? Do you have anything? Step up.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, go for it.
Gateway es un programa muy, muy importante para todos los Estados Unidos, porque la economía de Estados Unidos es más importante en esta región. En Nueva York es la corazón de la economía de los Estados Unidos, porque este tunnel en español, es más importante para esta economía. Gracias.
What's been the feedback that you've been hearing? What are they saying is the reason why they had this met the deadline? Is that what you've been hearing on the conference?
So, look, we get lots of different... feedback is probably too strong a word because we don't really get a lot of feedback on the EIS. We get asked questions from time to time. We continue to meet with the FRA and the FTA and have a standing call that they often cancel, but a standing call that we try to put in place. As I said, they've made some outreach last year, asked us to update the EIS based on having a new project sponsor. You know, we've heard some things in congressional testimony. For example, EISs take a long time. Some conflation between the EIS and the financial grant asks that we've made, which really are separate things that we're doing. So, look, to the degree that we're getting feedback, we just keep working with with the federal agencies that are responsible for this, and that's what we'll keep doing.
So, once the EIS is done and rubber stamped, what happens?
I can speak to that a little bit. I mean, so look, it's very important for us to get a record of decision on the EIS. We really have critical path issues that we need to take that can't be done without the record of decision. The most important of those are some of the early work that could get done on the tunnel, like property acquisition, for example. that we can't do without a record of decision that can help us, have the tunnel alignment in place before major construction gets going. So it's just another, we need money and we need the record of decision in order to get this tunnel moving forward.
Commitment from the federal government that you're going to get their share.
Correct.
I'd like to just really briefly introduce Laura Subayama, the Director of Communications for Regional Plan Association. Just to add a little more Spanish, not that Steve wasn't.
Oh yeah, I'm sure hers is much better.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Mira, hay miles de personas que viven en esta región que depende en este túnel. Y si no lo tenemos, van a ver que todo se va a impactar bien terrible y van a demorar bastante para ir a su trabajo, para ir a su casa, y necesitamos que el gobierno haga algo para construir este túnel.
Thanks, Lauren. Yes?
Have you made any conclusion that you're not really going to make any progress as long as the current president is in office?
I don't think so. I think that there's still a lot of work that we can be doing now to continue to make the case for Gateway and why it's the most critical infrastructure program in the nation. It may be challenging, yes, but this is one step that we think should and must move forward in the near future. So that's why we're here today. We wouldn't be here otherwise.
Do you have a plan B or a plan C for funding this, or a different alternative way of transporting people across the Hudson River if this doesn't happen? Because it appears that this is not going to happen.
Well, look, I'll go for it. Look. Welcome, Henry. I'm glad we could get you a good seat. Do you want to get closer?
No, this is great.
Okay, good.
The venue could have been better.
I know. You don't like the venue. I think 800,000 or so commuters a day through Penn Station would agree with you that the venue could be better. It's part of the reason that we're here. Look, there's a couple things. One, we are Plan A. We are on Plan A, right? Because Plan A is so necessary. And what Plan A is replacing the existing 109-year-old tunnel with a new tunnel, 21st century tunnel, and rehabbing the existing tunnel, and of course replacing the Portal Bridge. That needs to happen, right? And that's going to happen one way or the other. We can either do it the right way, by doing it proactively like this, or we can wait for the tunnels to continue to slowly fail to the point that you may need to shut down one of the tunnels and cost us $16 billion. In the meantime, obviously, all of our partners, Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, the states of New York and New Jersey, work every day to make sure that the existing infrastructure works as best as it possibly can, and up to and including, putting some of the potential rehab plans in place while the tunnels are still running. So we're going to do everything we can, and all our partners are doing everything we can, and already doing everything we can to make sure that this infrastructure that is frankly way past its useful life continues to go. And there was a story today about a barber who worked until he was 108 years old and just recently passed away. These tunnels are still working just as hard as they were on day one, and they're about to be 109 years old. It's time for them to get a break and to have a new tunnel in place and get rehab. Thank you. Look, I'll take that one too. Our congressional delegation has been unbelievably committed to this and focused on it. Remember, in the Senate, there's a Republican majority in the Senate, but the congressional appropriators have already appropriated more than $1 billion that can be used towards the Gateway projects. Right? Remember that has to be executed. Right? The congressional is just the legislative branch. That has to be executed. That requires U.S. DOT to allow the expenditure of those grants, and that has not been allowed to date.
FRA spokesman said in a statement this email to me that basically, across all federal agencies, the average EIS completion time from NOI, that is to ROD, is about 4.5 years. What's your response to that, since you mentioned that you're expedited? The other question is, can a temporary solution be used, such as the lacking solution to the L-train tunnel to try to buy a little more life in these tunnels before the worst possible scenario?
Yeah, for the first part, I mean, that's absolutely correct, but we're focused just on the section of the environmental review process from when the administrative final draft is submitted to the record of decision. There was a lot of work that was already completed before the administrative draft was submitted in February of 2018. And that part of the process is quite short. I mean, you can check out the FRA website. They have this section of the timeline listed for all the rail projects that have been approved over the last 10 years or so. And the average time for this part of the process is not 4.5 years. It's more like 4 months or less.
Thanks, Brad. So on the second part, as we've said, Larry, we're looking at all the options we can to keep the useful life of the existing tunnels in place for as long as possible. As you know, the problems in the existing tunnel, far exceed simply the power, and the power of 12,000 volt high voltage cables that feed the entire Penn Station train system has to be protected and has to be safe. We wouldn't take an approach that didn't do that. But the tunnels have myriad problems beyond just the power.
Anything else?
Can I just get a clear statement of what this delay is? Was it a deadline that they imposed?
Exactly.
Themselves?
Yes, the U.S. DOT imposed a deadline that they posted online of March 30th, 2018 to issue a record of decision for the environmental impact statement, and we are now 18 months past that self-imposed deadline.
Have they given you a reason, excuses?
Steve,
that was what I talked about before. There's a lot of back and forth that's gone on, but I think the statement that they just emailed to Larry gives you their latest rationale, which is EISs take a long time. I think Brian gave a very clear answer for why this one should not be taking this long, and the clearest example of that is the fact that the administration itself set a March 30th, 2018 deadline for issuing a record of decision, and we're now 545 days beyond that deadline. Thanks.
All right. Thank you all so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.